Splinter Cell Blacklist, a game now 11 years old and still the newest Splinter Cell game. And with the remake going through some issues in development, it may stay that way for a while. It seems Ubisoft would rather make a Splinter Cell anime and have Sam Fisher cameo in almost every one of their IPs, rather than just give us a new Splinter Cell game. But, oh well. This is a series I've done for many of the Assassin's Creed games, where I start a game from the beginning and try to get as far into it as I can without being spotted. Sometimes it goes surprisingly well, sometimes horribly wrong. But I've been wanting to branch out and do this type of video for other stealth games, as I find it to be a very fun challenge, and a fresh way to re-experience some of these games. And one that you guys heavily requested was Splinter Cell Blacklist. This is going to be quite different from Assassin's Creed, as Splinter Cell is even more stealth-focused, and there's no forced combat missions in the game's opening or anything, like there are in many of the Assassin's Creed games. Stealth is always the priority, which also makes it a lot harder for this kind of video, as there's always a risk of being detected. So I needed to be on my A game. No stupid mistakes like usual. But if there are any other stealth games you'd like to see me play for this kind of video, let me know in the comments. Perhaps we could do the other Splinter Cell games as well. Generally, I quite like Blacklist. It's a good hybrid between the faster-paced action of Conviction and the slower, more methodical pace and strategy of the older titles. I still prefer the older Splinter Cells, but Blacklist is still a very fun stealth game, so I was happy to return to it. But without further ado, it's time to step into the shoes of the one, the only Sam Fisher, and hopefully not be detected within the first 2 minutes of the game. Blacklist begins with this faction calling themselves the Engineers. Wow, what a great name. Infiltrating and blowing up a US Air Force base in Guam, a base Sam Fisher so happens to be at. One helicopter crash later, he and Victor are having to sneak their way back to the base to destroy a jammer and radio for help, as enemies completely surround them. Obviously, one of the big criticisms of Blacklist is the recasting of Sam Fisher. I mean, Michael Ironside basically created this character in collaboration with Ubisoft for the original game. His voice and performance had become so iconic. There is no Sam Fisher without Michael Ironside. So when Ubisoft announced they were replacing him with Eric Johnson, because they wanted to have the actor who plays Sam do performance capture with the mocap suit, there was rightfully a lot of outrage. Although, as we've learned since as well, Michael Ironside was actually battling cancer, and I'm glad that he at least still got to be involved in the game's production and aid Eric Johnson in becoming Sam Fisher. But I still don't understand why they decided to make this a sequel and have it take place after Conviction. They could have easily had this be a prequel with a younger Sam, and Eric Johnson's voice would have fit so much better. I could believe this is the voice of a younger Sam Fisher. But when this is supposed to take place after Conviction, and he goes from sounding like this...
They're both on the parking level, right?
...to this...
Stop hacking base IT, we're guests here.
It makes no sense. He went through reverse puberty or something. Like, Sam in this game sounds like a 30-year-old trapped in a 50-year-old's body. A lot of that could have been avoided had they just set this before the original game, but whatever. Not to mention Grimm looks and sounds completely different as well. It almost feels like a reboot, but it's still in the same timeline and canon as the other games, so I don't know what they were thinking. Maybe development was already well underway, and they planned to have Michael Ironside still voice Sam before he became unable to do so, and at that point it would have been too late to scrap the premise and start over. Maybe that's it? I don't know. It's just strange. I'm afraid we may not hear Ironside as Sam Fisher again, because he's not voicing him in the new Death Watch anime either, as he said he's just simply too old to play Sam anymore. And while I think at least Liev Schreiber's voice is far more of the same range and tone of Michael Ironside's in comparison to Eric Johnson's, it's really sad to think that Ghost Recon Breakpoint may be the last time we heard his voice for the character. I'm hoping he at least got to voice him again for the remake one last time, but I guess we'll see whenever that finally comes out in the next 200 years. Anyways, back to Blacklist. After Sam and Victor make their way through the base, we take out a couple guards. Forewarning here, I'm going full lethal for this run. I get the appeal and challenge of doing stealth games non-lethally, but I've always found it to be more satisfying to play lethally. In the Dishonored games, I'm usually going high chaos as well. Plus, I love the karambit takedown animations in this game. I can only imagine how good the animations would look in a modern Splinter Cell game. But after they're taken care of, Victor stops to treat a wounded soldier while telling me to go on ahead. Yeah, just leave me alone to take on an entire army with only a pistol and a karambit. Who am I kidding? That's nothing to Sam. Heading into my first real stealth challenge though, I was taking things cautiously, moving cover to cover. I have a very bad habit in stealth-focused games like this, where I just get kind of impatient and will try to speedrun an area with not much awareness, which almost always results in getting detected, but these types of videos force me to be a lot more patient and aware of the situation. In this first section, I wasn't gonna kill anyone if I didn't have to. If someone sees a body, or I miss a shot, or something unexpected happens, that's an easy way to get detected, so sometimes ghosting is the best course of action. Once I got to the end, there were 3 targets in my way, setting up the perfect opportunity to use mark and execute. It's so overpowered in this game, so I was gonna rely on it a lot. Plus, it also just looks really cool. With those guys taken care of though, I reached the next cutscene, where this injured enemy combatant grabs Sam's leg. I'm not quite sure why Sam decides to help him. Yeah, he can be compassionate and empathetic, but this soldier is part of an organization that just blew up this military base, killed a bunch of US soldiers, not to mention you just killed a bunch of his comrades, and now you decide to suddenly show mercy? Again, if this was a younger Sam, maybe that makes more sense. He doesn't know better, but this guy is about as experienced as one can get. And Sam pays the price for his stupidity as the man tries to blow him up with a grenade, but luckily Victor saves him, though gets injured himself in the process. And after a few news stories and a video from the engineers saying they'll make an attack on the US once a week until they recall all their troops from every foreign country, that concludes Blacklist's opening. It's a very brief opening, but it gets the job done. With the threat of Blacklist on the horizon, the 4th echelon is created, headed up by Sam himself. He's joined by a stereotypical tech guy in the chair who brings comic relief, Charlie Cole, new operative Briggs, and of course, Grimm, who apparently discovered the Fountain of Youth? Yeah, honestly, Blacklist is better when you kind of forget the story exists. With the team assembled, we head to Benghazi to find Andrei Kobin, the man who helped fake the death of Sam's daughter Sarah in Conviction. Again, it's just weird when this game reminds you that this is after Conviction, with how different and younger the characters seem. But for this first mission, I'm restricted to a basic preset loadout, nothing too crazy in terms of weapons and gadgets yet. After walking through the streets of Benghazi and finding an ideal location to change into the echelon gear, I approached my first target, took him out with a cover takedown, and then used mark and execute on the other 2. I entered the nearby building and essentially did the same thing, a cover takedown to refill the execute gauge, leading to another easy double kill. When I reached the upstairs, I flipped off the light switch to draw a guard near me, then went through the next room and out the window onto the lower balcony. I waited for this guy to head back inside, climbed up into the room above, and took this guy out with a karambit as he was pretty close to spotting me. In the next room, I once again used mark and execute to take out 2 targets. I told you guys I was going to rely on this thing a lot. Also, quick side note, but the lighting in this game, especially in these interiors, still looks so good. Again, I can only imagine how good a modern Splinter Cell would look, especially with ray tracing and everything. Too bad. I stuck my way to the room where Kobin was presumably being held, and for like the 5th time already, did a cover takedown and mark and execute to take out the last 3 targets. As cool as this mechanic is, I do think it's a little too easy to refill and abuse. Maybe if it was a bit harder to refill the gauge, it wouldn't be so overpowered. But after checking the hostage, we learned that it's actually not Kobin, instead it's Grimm's contact. And after some ill-timed and eye-rolling quips by Charlie...
Done. Wow, there is a lot of freaky porn on here.
Looking for a look.
Who wrote this? We find out that Kobin is being held in a police station on the other side of town. Sam does some parkour that unironically kinda looks better than the new Assassin's Creed games, and I climbed over this ledge, unaware that there would be an enemy right there. Luckily I'm able to get into cover and take him down though, before any harm is done. I then took the zipline to get across to the other group of buildings, not realizing there was an enemy here either, but thankfully he turned around to inspect a canister of gas, I guess? Seriously, what was this guy looking at? Did he think Sam was hiding in that gas can? With him dead though, I now had my most challenging stealth encounter yet. with 4 guards splitting up and searching for me across this rooftop. I didn't have the minimap yet, but if you mark enemies as if you were going to use mark and execute, you can actually keep them tagged so you know where they are even if they leave your line of sight, which would prove to be a big help. I waited patiently for the guards to split up and give me a good opportunity. One just walked right up to me, allowing for an easy takedown. I tried to draw this guy's attention, but for some reason he didn't come over to investigate.
Hey, you. I think I heard something.
I tried it again on another guard, and this time it worked, only I nearly got spotted by one of the guys in the back. At this moment, it had occurred to me that I hadn't really been utilizing my tools, so I used a sticky camera to try and knock out this guy with sleeping gas, only with some terrible timing, the guard saw the body of the man I killed earlier, so he came sprinting at me, and luckily I was able to get off the camera and take him out just in time. With him dead, there was only one guy left, so I decided to stop trying to be cute and fancy with all my different gadgets and just shot him in the head. As I continued to make my way toward the police station, I took out another 2 guards with mark and execute, and captured a high value target for some extra rewards. I shot the light switch in an attempt to isolate the enemies in the hallway to pick them off one by one. I whiffed my first 2 shots on this guy so hard and almost got detected. That would have been an extremely embarrassing way for this video to end. As I progressed through the hallway, I shot this guy in the head, and the last guy here nearly saw me as he walked out of the door, but for some reason he turned to check the other side of the hallway, even though he was looking right at me, and thankfully my aim didn't let me down this time. If I had missed there, it would have been all over. I was going to try and lure this guy over to do a cover takedown, but as I attempted to do so, another enemy came sprinting down the hallway, leaving me no choice but to use mark and execute to take them both out with one fell swoop. Another guard came running up the stairs to investigate, and he too was met with a bullet to the dome. I finally made my way out of the building and into this little alleyway, where I was introduced to the guard dogs that can pick up and track your scent, which was going to make my life significantly harder. The dog almost immediately saw me, then picked up my scent and headed in my direction. I had no choice but to take it out. I hate when games make me do this. In retrospect, I realize I could have used the taser. I finally made it to the exterior of the police station though, where I was once again met with a large group of enemies. This guy was right next to the door, which I was not expecting, so I immediately had to take him out. I don't know what was going on with the guy in the back here. Once again, there was another guard dog, so I had to move carefully. When in doubt, abuse mark and execute, like a true spy. The guard dog immediately picked up my scent again, and I forgot to switch to non-lethal again. Another enemy came around the corner, which I was not ready for, but luckily I had good reaction time. I made my way into the police station and tried to avoid a bulk of the guards while only killing those in my way to minimize any risk of being seen. I could hear Coben being interrogated very loudly.
You have a lock on Coben's location?
Best bet is a securing.
And I tried to shoot whatever lights I could to remain in the darkness, and continued to move cover to cover through the bottom floor. I made my way up the stairs, avoiding most of the enemies on the first floor, and I finally reached the interrogation room where good ol' Andrew Coben was being electrocuted. And the game sets up the perfect opportunity for a badass triple kill.
What the fuck? Don't kill me!
Man, I miss Splinter Cell. I love Coben's absolutely horrified reaction when he realizes Sam is his savior. He doesn't question why Sam suddenly sounds 20 years younger, but it's kind of hilarious that Coben's voice actor was one of the only roles not recast for this game. They definitely made Coben more of a comic relief type of character as well. However, with Coben now in tow, I had a new challenge. I had to stealth my way through the rest of the building with this guy completely slowing and restricting my movement. Although it wasn't nearly as difficult as I thought it would be. I just took things slowly, lined up the easy headshots, and before long, we were out. Sam makes Coben walk on shattered glass with his bare feet. That looks horribly unpleasant, and then makes him zipline with his belt on a very conveniently placed wire, and just like that, the mission is successful. Hey, I made it through the first 2 sequences without being detected, which is honestly a lot better than I even expected myself to do, so I was satisfied with it. I definitely put the most points into the Panther archetype with 44 stealth kills, and absolutely 0 into Assault, because you can't get any combat kills when you're being a true spy and not getting detected. Briggs takes Coben into the Paladin's little jail cell. As much as I don't really care for Blacklist's narrative, I do like the addition of Briggs to the team. Grim insisted I upgrade the Paladin, which I did with the money I earned from the last mission, so I unlocked the radar minimap, which would prove to be a big help. Our next mission would take us to Marawa, Iraq, where Coben sold weapons to the engineers. Still can't believe they call themselves that. Like, you really couldn't come up with something better, Ubisoft? Nothing screams intimidating terrorist organization with a name like the Engineers. Sam is trying to get on the ground as fast as possible, while Grim wants more prep time. So, after ignoring her request, Briggs uses a very OP suppressed sniper rifle with aimbot to take out all the enemies on Sam's approach. I mean, why don't we just use this thing to clear the whole area? And from there, we're back on the ground as Sam. Now, honestly, at this point, I already made it a bit farther than I expected from myself, so I counted this as a win, but I was going to try my best to make it even further, of course. I like the variety of locations in many of Blacklist's missions though. You get a good range of landscapes and environments to sneak your way through, though they're still not as well designed and built for stealth as some of those original Splinter Cell games. But I guess compromises need to be made as this game is trying to appeal to 3 separate playstyles and strike that balance between the old school strategic stealth and action shooter mechanics of Conviction. And I also don't know why Sam keeps wanting to do these missions in broad daylight, especially when his whole thing is hiding in the dark, but hey, I guess we got no time to lose. I finally approached the stronghold where I was met with my first targets. Having the radar is certainly useful here. I distracted one with a noisemaker as I killed the other and then shot the distracted guy with the stun gun. I then used a tri-rotor drone to identify Coben's buyer, but Charlie couldn't get a match on the man and the drone was shot, so now I had to get up close and personal and get a match on facial recognition. I infiltrated the building and ran upstairs, just trying to avoid and not kill anyone if I didn't have to. I was able to sneak to the back room by climbing outside the windows without even having to fire a bullet, where there was an armored enemy that can only be killed from above or behind. So I chose above, and slipped into the next room, triggering the next cutscene. Sam interrogates the buyer using his persuasive techniques. He absolutely ragdolls this guy. It is a cool cutscene, but I wish you could interrogate in gameplay using the environment like you could in Conviction. I always thought that was one of the best additions that game made. It's too bad that wasn't carried on in Blacklist. Or at least bring back the interrogations from the old games.
Are you gonna say monkey?
What? No!
Then this conversation is over.
The buyer claims to be an undercover MI6 operative who's been in deep cover for 3 years, but after a quick background check from Grim, we quickly learn he's lying. After some generic villain spiel about how it's too late to stop the Blacklist, the game gives me the choice to kill or spare him. Come on now, you guys know me. Maybe if he didn't lie to me, he could have lived. After a bunch more rock climbing, I reached the next location, where thankfully I pre-marked these 2 enemies, because as I went to get into cover, one turned around and was a split second away from spotting me, but since I already had him marked, I was able to use All Reliable for the double kill. That was probably the closest call we've had so far. I then had enemies to my left and right on this next section, so I tried to hop over this ledge to stay out of sight, where, in great timing, my luck had finally run out. And that's where the run ends. I feel like this guy spotted me way too quickly, but oh well, I'm not too torn up about it. Like I said, I made it much farther than I expected. In total, I made it about an hour into the game without being spotted, like 2.5 missions, which for a very stealth-intense game like this, I don't think is too bad. But Splinter Cell has always been quite challenging when going for those flawless, undetected runs. Let me know if you guys would like to see me do this for the other Splinter Cell games, or another stealth game in general in the comments. I still gotta do these for some of the remaining Assassin's Creed games as well. If you haven't seen me do this for most of the AC games, I have an entire playlist of these videos if you're interested in checking it out. And other than that, thanks for watching, and I hope you have a good rest of your day, everybody. And remember to stay stealthy.